All right, well, you got a room full here.
Hold on, I'm trying to. Oh, like you all are in person.
Yes, we're in person.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Aw, thank you all for having me today. I'm super excited and honored to be with you.
All right, well, before you get into what you were going to present, and before we got some awesome questions for you too. Um,
I'm excited.
a lot of them are don't really understand what all a flight attendant does. So,
Yes,
get
well,
us.
let's talk about that.
Well, first of all, take us through your background because you have a super cool backstory, and then just take us into what all gets up from getting a plane to point A to point B.
All right. So, good morning, everybody. My name is LaShonda. I'm sorry. Good morning, everybody. My name is LaShonda King. I am originally from Compton, California. Most of the time, people have heard of Compton, so I don't usually need to explain where that is. Um, my background is I'm the oldest of three daughters, and my parents still live in Compton, and neither of them went to college. And so they made very, very much sure that me and my sisters like stayed focused in school and had different opportunities to be the best that we could be. I played basketball, volleyball in high school, and I used to work for the football team and do a lot of other activities. So in high school, school wasn't always my favorite. I'm not going to front and say it was, but I knew that I needed to do good in order to give myself more opportunities for my future. So after high school, I went to college. I went to two different colleges for my bachelor's. I went to a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution called UC Berkeley. And UC Berkeley is a top public university in the country. But my favorite year of college was when I went to Spelman College, which is a historically Black women's college in Atlanta, Georgia. So I graduated from Berkeley and I was an athlete, and so I decided that I wanted to go study something to do with sports in grad school. So I went to Michigan State and studied athletic administration. When I was at Michigan State, I got to work for two Division I athletic programs, and I also interned for the Detroit Pistons and the LA Clippers in the NBA. So I love sports, which is how me and Mr. Pie Guy got to meet each other. Um, I actually went to grad school and worked as like a high school counselor. I worked as a basketball coach. I worked as an academic advisor for students getting their bachelor's degree at UC Berkeley. And then I also joined an organization called Teach for America, where I spent a year teaching in Hawaii. I taught math, high school math, and then I also taught college seminar in Chicago. I actually decided that I wanted to help people in a different way. So I went back to a school called Austin Peay State University in Tennessee and got a master's in counseling. And that's where me and Mr. Pie got met. We both love sports. You all know he's very into like coaching and officiating. And so I think we probably met because I was looking for intramural basketball. Um, I also took a class in won a contest in wheelchair basketball too. I'm not disabled, but I did play wheelchair basketball at Michigan State, learning how to play basketball and work with those who have disabilities in sports. I have a pretty like diverse and unique background. On top of all that school stuff, one of the things that makes me the most excited to do is hair. I'm actually a licensed cosmetologist and I do makeup. So I guess I'm saying all that to tell you that like you don't have to limit yourself to just one thing. You can be great and do amazing things no matter where you are. So I've done all those things, right? And then you say, but she says she's a flight attendant. So being a flight attendant does not mean that you have to only do one thing. And it doesn't mean that like you have to just choose that. As a flight attendant, I actually flew with this other guy who's been a flight attendant for 15 years, but he's a medical doctor. And so he is a flight attendant, some part-time, well, no, full-time, but then he's also a medical doctor. And he uses his flight benefits to be able to like help people with medical stuff in other countries. And so one of the things that I use my flight benefits for, if I would have known you all are in person, I might have just pulled up on Mississippi, like, what's up? You know, but so one of the things that I use my flight benefits for is to, you know, go to different trainings and learnings and to go help different students. So I used to be a school counselor, and I'm also creating a Black college and career app right now. So I couldn't let this opportunity go by without telling you about some other careers in aviation, but I will talk about being a flight attendant. So most of the time, if you've been on a plane already, you know, when you think of a flight attendant, you like think of them just bringing you the drinks and the snacks and that's it. If you're one of like rare people, you might have been on a flight where somebody like got sick or had a heart attack or some pregnant lady went into labor. And flight attendants are there to bring you drinks and snacks, but really we bosses. We are the boss of the airplane while it's at 35,000 feet in the air. So if you think about it, like we run it. You know, the pilots fly it, but we run it. So the pilots are locked away in the flight deck, and the flight attendants are there in the cabin with anywhere between up to like, there are some planes that hold about, I think the biggest one, the Airbus, I think holds like 380 people. So yeah, it's 2 stories and it holds about 380 people. So flight attendants have to manage all that. So I mean, I used to be a teacher like Mr. Pygott. So just imagine me trying to like maintain, you know, 25 or 30 students, right? And then imagine having to like maintain 350, or in my case, the most that I've dealt with was close to 200, 187. So when there's 187, there's 4 flight attendants, and we are responsible for making sure everybody is safe, making sure the doors are properly closed and the emergency equipment is all there, because if somebody like has a heart attack, we need to know instantly where the defibrillator is for CPR, and for to be able to help save lives, we have to contact. There's ways that the pilots can contact emergency people on the ground, but we have to be able to like handle the emergency as well as contact the pilots at the same time, as well as go back and forth with them. We know how to put out fires on the plane, like say somebody's like Heelys, or they're like, you remember when all the Samsung phone, like the tablets were catching on fire and people were putting them in planes and they were catching on fire. So we learn how to put out fires, do CPR on infants, kids, adults. We learn how to shock people if their heart stops beating. We learn signs of different major illnesses that might come up, but we ask for help. We ask for doctor's help. It's always good to ask for help. If you don't know something, whether it's school, sports, like an activity, just anything, if you don't know, ask for help. So whenever we do have an emergency, we ask if there's doctors on board. Um, we do get to travel some fun places. Sometimes we don't get to travel fun places. Sometimes we just go somewhere that isn't, you know, Bermuda or the Bahamas or Jamaica. Most of the time we just go places like, you know, in the country. There's small, there's small airlines that are called regional airlines that help out the big airlines. So the big airlines, I work for JetBlue. So the big airlines are like JetBlue, Delta, Southwest, American, United, and Spirit. Like those kind of folks are the big guys. And then there are some airlines like Endeavor, GoJet, SkyWest that help out the main line, the big airlines. So there's private charter planes where just one flight attendant takes care of the whole plane. Like a company like Google, they have their own fleet of planes and they have their own flight attendants. Like you could be a flight attendant for Google. Like I'm a flight attendant for JetBlue. And then there's this girl I know, she's a flight attendant for us and she's a flight attendant for Google. So there's a lot of careers in aviation though. But that's just the gist of being a flight attendant. You can do that and do a lot of other careers. I've met one lady I met, she's a medical evacuation nurse. So like if somebody has like a bad accident, or if, like say at your school, since you all are out a little bit of ways from like the big, from Jackson, say there was like a really bad emergency at the school and they needed to get one of the young people, maybe to Vanderbilt or somewhere really quickly, they would fly a helicopter there to come get them. And so one of the ladies who's a flight attendant who I met is a medical evacuation nurse. And so she worked on helicopters for 25 years as one of the crew members who helped to stabilize people who were having medical emergencies on a helicopter. I've met people who are teachers, real estate agents, cosmetologists. I've met people who are moms, who are single moms, who are single dads. Yeah, there's a lot of, entrepreneurs and different people who are flight attendants. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
And if I'm not mistaken, this weekend you were in Boston. Right now you're in Oakland, but you're based out of
Yeah,
Los Angeles. Is that right?
yes. Yeah, so um, I ended up, so I live in Oakland, and you know how like your parents or your guardians or your family might like complain about commuting to work and driving to work. Well, last year I used to live in Oakland and I had to commute. I had to start my day for work in New York. So I would have to go from my house in Oakland and drive 35 minutes to the airport in San Francisco and then fly 6 hours to New York to JFK International Airport just to be at work. And then I would have trips after that. So my commute last year used to be 7 hours one way. This
Wow.
one guy that I met, this one guy that I met, he only does it once a month, but he commutes from Hawaii to Boston to be a flight attendant. And he stays in Boston for 2 weeks to work, 2.5 weeks to work. And then he goes home to Hawaii for 1.5 weeks out of every month. And he loves it. He loves being a flight attendant so much that he commutes from Hawaii to Boston. There's people that commute from other countries and all kind of stuff because like if they know their schedule, then it's easy for them to just set up a block of time. They have a place to stay in both places.
All right. So we do have some questions I want to get to. This is from Ashley Stanford. And she says, what is so interesting to you about what you do? And do you make friends because you meet so many people?
What's interesting to me is I actually love planes. When I was younger, I used to work on cars with my dad, so I really love engines. So I've been obsessed with planes. And it's funny that you all are close to Jackson because the very, very, very first time I flew, I was 10 years old and I flew by myself and I flew to Jackson, Mississippi. That was the very first place I flew when I was a kid. And so I've always actually been obsessed with airplanes, how they stay in the air, how the engines work. And when you land, the wings do all kind of stuff, the flaps and the slats and the air brakes, all these things move. So I became a flight attendant um, because I wanted to try something new, but I'm most interested in how the plane works and how all the components work together. And I meet friends everywhere because I talk to people. I don't, ever since I was a kid, I was told that I don't really know strangers. Like I'm very friendly. Now don't mess with me because I don't play games. I'm not for play, but I'm obviously very friendly and I talk to people and I treat people the way I want to be treated. So I tend to pick up a few friends along the way.
All right. This one's from Deja Weaver. And she said, has anything ever gone wrong while you were on a plane?
Not anything super severe, but I have had two situations where people had medical emergencies. So one was on the ground and one was in the air. And so on the ground, a guy, well, I was walking by, we were doing our checks, and you could just see this guy just laying back in his seat looking like he just didn't look right. And then he was like breathing really like hard but slow. And his wife, they were going to the Dominican Republic from New York, so that's like a long flight and it's overseas, it's over water. And he was having a hard time breathing. And I, being from Compton, I know some Spanish. So I could hear her saying in Spanish, like to somebody next to her, that her husband was sick and that something was wrong. And so in Spanish, I asked her like if she needed help. And then she said, yes, my husband is sick. My husband is sick. And so then we were going to Dominican Republic. So we have people on the plane, at least one who are fluent in Spanish. So I asked her to come over and basically the man had taken medication. He had taken his heart medication to like slow his heart down and lower his blood pressure, and it mixed with something else that he took, and it was making him his blood pressure and his heart rate was too low, and he was like going in and out of consciousness. So we were able to actually get them off the plane before we left. She was really mad though. She was really mad that they had to get off the plane because they wanted to go home to the Dominican Republic. But we explained to her that, we wanted everybody on the plane to be safe, including them, and we wouldn't want to start going to Dominican Republic. Then he stopped breathing and his heart stopped, and then we have to try and get him help in the air. We didn't want to do that, so it didn't get to go with us on our flight.
All right, this is from Destiny
You,
Matlock. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna ask you, do you want me to go through like briefly the slides about the other aviation
Yeah, I
crews and
got
then
one
come back?
more. Yeah, I got one more that I want to see that. This is
Oh, sure, sure.
This is Destiny Matlock, and she asked, "What are some important skills you need as a flight attendant?"
As a flight attendant, the most important skill you need is to be confident. And so I don't know if you all talk about this in school, but you have technical skills and then you have soft skills. And your soft skills are your ability to like do things that you can't exactly measure. So like, counting is a technical skill. Like putting something together is a technical skill, but like communication is a soft skill. And so one of the things that you need to be a flight attendant is confident, because you have to, if there's an emergency, like if say like, I don't know if you all saw like recently, but there was a plane and one of the engines caught on fire while they were in the air. So to be fair, planes can fly with one engine, and they can be in the air for a good bit of time with no engine. So even if a plane, it's scary if a plane has an engine that catches on fire, but they're made to actually fly with one engine, so they can still fly. But so if you're in a plane, and in that plane there was 178 people. So if you're in a plane with 178 people and the engine catches on fire and people can see it out the window, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to freak out.
Yeah.
And so as a flight attendant, you have to be confident, you have to be calm, and you also have to be comfortable with taking charge. You have to tell people, because, Mr. Pragat, and I used to be a teacher too. So when I say sit down, bruh, I mean go sit down. So when you're a flight attendant, it's the same thing. You have to be able to deal with all kinds of people. Sometimes people are on a plane because, like, this one lady, was flying because her mom and her dad and her like niece or something like got in a really bad car accident, and she needed to get to them. People are flying for like their wedding. I just like carried somebody's wedding dress like last week. um People are going on vacation. People are like getting away from home. People are going away to college. And so you have all those people traveling at different times. I mean, for different reasons, all at the same time. So people are going to be in different moods. Some people are confident about flying. Some people are scared about flying. And some people are sober, and some people drink alcohol. Some people have pets and dogs, and, some people don't like dogs. So you have to be really patient. You have to be confident. You have to be assertive. You have to be adaptable to change. Like if you go to class one day and you thought you were going to do this, and then it turns out that you have to do that, and you get an attitude, like being a flight attendant may not be for you, or being a pilot, because stuff changes all the time. You never know. That's the part I like about it. You never know what you're going to get at work. Like
Oh yeah, absolutely.
anything could. And then being a new flight attendant, I'm on call. So like when I went to work on Friday, I thought that I was just going to sit at the airport in case something happened. And then something did happen. A person couldn't make it to work. So then I ended up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and in Boston. And I didn't expect to be in Boston. So you have to be adaptable. You have to be friendly, although some flight attendants are not. There's some stank flight attendants that I don't understand them.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Um,
I'm like, why are you doing this if you're not friendly?
sometimes passengers are really mean to you. And then on top of that, sometimes you just have like regular life. You're still a human. So like maybe something happened to you at home, or maybe like, something happened to you, and you still have to go to work because you still have to provide for yourself and feed your family. So flight attendants are people too. But for the most part, you need to be friendly. It's okay. Like confident, friendly, assertive. You have to like read and pay attention and remember stuff, because if there's an emergency, I need to remember where my fire extinguisher is, or I need to remember where my oxygen mask is, or somebody like can't breathe, I need to remember where the portable oxygen bottle is. So you have to remember a lot of stuff when you're a flight attendant.
If you want to go ahead and go into your presentation, you can share your screen.
How do I do that? Let's see. Let me put this in presentation mode. Yeah, actually. Alrighty.
Yep, I've got it.
So, do you have a actual presentation?
Oh, I see your view. All right, now I see it.
Nope, I don't want to start there. Okay, so I cannot talk to a group of students that are, I heard you all are mostly Black, and I am Black. So I could not resist, going through and talking to you all about some different careers that are in aviation, just because I'm going to be honest, when I was in high school, we had people that cared about us, but my high school had 4,000 students and we had one college counselor. And so we didn't have a lot of time to talk about different careers and stuff. And so that's why I became a school counselor. And that's why I'm creating a Black College and Career app, because I believe that every Black student should know about historically Black colleges and universities, and they should also know about different careers.
Yeah, seeing how we have five in Mississippi. We have five. We have 5 HBCUs in Mississippi.
I know. I'm very excited about that. Actually, one of my students from Chicago goes to Jackson State.
Cool.
And then I know I have a couple friends that graduated from Alcorn State.
Yep, that's 2 good ones.
Yes, all of them are good ones. Did you all know that there is 105 historically Black colleges? 105.
Yeah, I knew there's a lot.
So, yeah. So I couldn't go without taking this opportunity. So on the far left of the screen, you have that lady. Her name is Bessie Coleman. She's the first Black female pilot, and she loved flying so much that she did stunt flying. She loved flying so much that she left the United States, where they would not let her fly, and she went to France and got her pilot's license in a whole nother country. And she doesn't come from a rich background. She comes from a background where her mom worked in the field or different things like that, and she was just so determined to do it that she basically left the country and did that. The lady in the middle is the first fighter jet pilot in the Air Force. And then that lady on the right there is me in my flight attendant uniform on one of our planes for JetBlue. At the bottom, you see me there, the Compton counselor. That's when I am working with students and working with adults. I am the Compton counselor. And so I'm the Compton counselor on Instagram, and I am Fly Queen King on Instagram if you want to follow me. On the bottom there is another military service woman who is a helicopter pilot. So anytime you look up anything in aviation, especially pilots, you will always see men. And so, yes, there's plenty of men who do it. There are more Black men who do it than Black women. So that's why I chose to highlight these 3 Black women. And it's also Women's History Month too. And we're coming off of Black History Month. So in aviation, you have careers that are called above the wing and below the wing. So typically the ones that are above the wing are the ones that deal with people. So the first set of, why are you being funny? Okay, the first set of people, they call different things sometimes at different airlines, but they're airport operations, customer service agents, reservation agents. Those are people who check you in, take your bags, make sure you have all your documents, your passport, your ID. And with that, you can do that in any local airport. Sometimes they have reservation agents that actually work from home, like JetBlue has people that work from home, so does Delta and the other airlines too. So those are your above the wing airport operations people. And then there's us, the flight attendants. So our primary job is to monitor the cabin and make sure everything is safe. All the equipment for emergencies is accounted for. In the middle, you'll see that bunch of people. Those are me and my classmates the day we graduated from flight attendant training. We decided to take a ABC picture, and ABC stands for All Black Crew. The one in the middle was one of the first Black flight attendants, and then down at the bottom in the right-hand corner is my cousin Corliss. She's a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines, but she also is a union representative. And I know some of your family members may be part of a union, so flight attendants can be a part of a union. And so Corliss at the bottom is actually speaking to the state of Illinois, and she is fighting for rights for flight attendants and pilots and their families. And also, yeah, so we do provide services, but we are there to respond to emergencies. And then also pilots. Pilots are the folks who fly. So a plane is called a fixed wing aircraft because the wings don't move, and then helicopters are called rotary wing aircraft. So at the top, you have a group of Black women pilots. Black women make up only less than 1% of all pilots are Black women. And so there is an organization called Sisters of the Skies that focuses on pilot training and mentorship for Black girls and Black women. To the right is one of my friends, Jason. He is a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and he's a pilot in the Air Force, and he's a pilot for American Airlines. Below him is, I don't know her, but she's one of my sorority sisters. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She is known to be the first African-American female pilot to obtain her private pilot's license with a disability. So she is actually permanently in a wheelchair, and her being in a wheelchair does not stop her from being able to fly a plane. She actually has modifications to help her to control the foot part of the aircraft, but she is a licensed pilot with a disability and one of my sorority sisters. You have a bomber pilot at the bottom there who's in the military, a Navy pilot, and then a group of Black pilots that are in the Air Force. And if you can see down at the bottom, one with the glasses on the right-hand side is a woman. It's not as many, but we need to find some more lady pilots. One of my best friends is a aircraft mechanic, and she is a Black woman too. She is one of less than 1% of aircraft mechanics are also Black women, but there are more Black men who do it. And you see that big engine at the top. That's what behind the airplane engine looks like. And that big engine that you see me down standing next to was my best friend's, one of the ones she worked on. And that's also the same type of engine that caught on fire. So if you can't even see how huge the engine is on there, but it's a really big engine. Aircraft mechanics work on all parts of the aircraft, and there's also some people who specialize in avionics, and that is, to do with like missiles and radio systems and stuff like that, because airplanes need to communicate. How much time I got, Mr. Pragat? Okay, and so I said those careers are called above the wing, and so they have careers that are called below the wing, and so they call them below the wing because they handle stuff at the bottom of the aircraft. I think that actually being an aircraft mechanic falls under below the wing, but they actually work above and below the wing, so they just are the wing. So below the wing are the ground operations people. Sometimes they call them ramp agents. They have different names, operations agents, different things, but they are responsible for making sure the fuel is right. They're responsible for making sure the bags get packed under the plane a certain way. So the bags have to be packed a certain way because the weight of the plane has to be balanced. The ground operation agents guide the planes in. Sometimes they drive these things called tugs, and they're so small, but they pull the whole plane into the gate. Sometimes they help to actually start the plane externally with something called an APU, an auxiliary power unit. At the bottom with the orange on is one of my friends. I like to highlight men and women and non-binary people who do these jobs because I don't want people to think that certain jobs are only for guys, because I'm strong as a woman. I can lift more than most people.
Before we met with you, I said, don't think that women can't do this stuff.
Yeah, so like, I love to lift weights, and I'm very strong. And so, one of my friends is a woman, and she is a ground operations agent. So those bags, guiding the planes, driving the tug that pulls the planes, women do that too. It's not just something that men do. It is going to be a lot of men who do it, and you're going to have to be really assertive and hold your boundaries as a woman. But, it is a job that we can do too. And then also one of the wing, it's not a above or below the wing job, it's outside, but it's an air traffic controller. So air traffic controllers are the bosses. There are thousands of airplanes in the air at one time, and we just can't see them because they're so high. So air traffic controllers are the people who look at all this equipment and all the planes that are flying in vicinities and help pilots to know where they can go, where they cannot go, if a plane is doing something that it's not supposed to do. The air traffic controllers work with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to tell them like, hey, this plane is doing something it's not supposed to. And it basically manages all the routes. So there's air traffic control around the world, and like they are strategically placed around the country. The lady in the middle is the first Black woman air traffic controller, and she became a air traffic controller after and while she had 7 kids. The 2 young ladies at the top and bottom are actually from the Caribbean, and they are part of a special program in the islands that train Caribbean women to become air traffic controllers, because like all the rest of the ones that I talked about, except being a flight attendant, all the rest of them don't have as many Black women. So there's a lot of programs to help Black people and Black women to become in these careers. Lastly, one of the careers that has to do with aviation is an engineer. So you don't have to be, there's no like, it's not an airplane engineer. You have aerospace engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, maybe even like chemical or petroleum engineers, but different engineers basically build, research, and develop stuff. So at the bottom is one of my favorite, like just kind of a understanding of how the engine works and how the plane stays in the air. And so sometimes when I was in high school, I would wonder why I had calculus and wonder why I had physics. And I thought they were stupid because they didn't actually like do anything. But people do use calculus for stuff if you want to have that kind of job. And people do use things like physics and chemistry. So if you all see the guy who's an astronaut, also another astronaut is Dr. Mae Jemison. So astronauts are aerospace engineers. And so they learn about like flying, and they learn about space and gravity. So they study like a whole bunch of stuff in physics and mechanical engineering. If you work on engines, like airplane engines, and help to build and design those, you are a mechanical engineer. Every plane, like how you think of like a laptop, every plane has this one huge space that's all like the brain of it, and that's electrical engineers and computer engineers. So engineers are also very important to planes and aviation. And then one thing I just wanted to highlight was historically Black colleges and universities that do have programs in aviation. One is Delaware State, Hampton University, Langston University in Oklahoma, Edward Waters College in Florida, Norfolk State in Virginia, Morris Brown University in Georgia, Tennessee State University in Tennessee. My sister works at Florida Memorial University, and in Florida, they are outside of Miami, and Elizabeth City State University in North Carolina. So those are programs for aviation, but there are a few more historically Black colleges that have programs specifically in aerospace and not aviation. But you can become like a pilot through the military. You can become a pilot by going to college. And one fun fact that most people don't know is that you can get your private pilot license by 16 years old. So I actually met this I read a story about this young lady who's 16, and a black girl who's 16, and she doesn't have a driver's license yet, but she has her pilot's license. So you can actually study and get your private pilot's license by the time you're 16. Now you can't fly, people until you're in your 20s. But you can by, I think 23, you can become a commercial airline pilot by 23. So I just wanted to make sure that I took the opportunity to share about different careers while I had the bright future of Mississippi and the world in front of me. So I appreciate you all.
You brought up NESBA, because NESBA is a great organization, even for people not in aviation. And they also, at the PWIs, NESBA is very big as well. There was a huge chapter of NESBA at LSU. And there is Mississippi State as well, which are both SEC PWIs. But now at Jackson State, they have one of the fastest growing electrical engineering programs in the country. And that's an HBCU program right here in Jackson. So there's a lot of these opportunities, even if it's not in aviation, but just in engineering on the mechanical side for young Black people all over the country.
Yeah, so the organization on the left is called NSBE. It's the National Society of Black Engineers. So like, I know we just think of things simple like gas, like we put gas in the car, but how does how do we know what kind of gas and what chemicals can drive which car? Because if you have like, people in your family that have like an old 87 pickup that has a diesel engine, that doesn't take the same kind of gas as a regular car. And then jet fuel is not the same as car fuel. And I love drag racing and cars and stuff. So, you know, drag racing cars can't use the same kind of gas as my Honda. So you even have people that are petroleum engineers who work on like fuel and chemical stuff. So there's all kinds of engineers out there. So yes, NESB is a great program for that. The bird on the right is the Black Pilots of America, and then on the other part is the Black Flight Attendants of America. But yeah, so there's a ton of things to do. There's a website called ONET, ONET.
We use it
You
all
can
the
go
time.
on.
We're very familiar with ONET.
Okay, good. I love ONET. And so it's one of my favorite tools to use as a counselor. And also I work with kids and adults. Like sometimes adults want to change careers too, and they thought nobody told them, about different jobs. Yeah, yeah, you just like you became a teacher after you worked at a university. And obviously I changed careers a lot. So, but for now, my main goal is to work on this Black College and Career App so that these amazing students who are sitting in front of me can know all the different types of careers, because who knows that you can be a counselor and a cosmetologist and a flight attendant, right? Me, I know that. And I think that students should know that I value four-year universities, I value vocational schools, technical schools, I value things like Job Corps. There's so many things that
And
we can do
in
with our
Mississippi,
lives.
we have a great junior college program. We have 15 community
Oh
colleges
yeah.
in Mississippi and 2 HBCU community colleges.
Yes, and a lot of people don't know that there are some HBCUs that offer associate degree and technical degree programs at the associate's level, and there absolutely are. So I'm very, very thankful. I don't have anything else to say. I can stop sharing my screen, but I could not leave without,
Oh, absolutely.
sharing that because it's really important to me. So
And
is it back?
we appreciate you so much doing this. I know it's not even 8 o'clock out there in California yet. And we're almost out of time, and we did have some great questions, but as somebody that me and you are close to the same age. So as somebody that grew up even before these young people did in a major metropolitan area around a lot more crime, around a lot more craziness, and
In the hood.
yeah, exactly. As somebody that grew up, but you grew up Black in America, and you
Yeah.
become extremely successful. And I'm just awed to see you to see what all you do all the time. What is the main advice you can give to someone that is a teenager now that's Black in America? Because, and you know how I feel, I know it's harder than anything else to be Black in the United States, but you're a perfect example of somebody that has just beat the odds so many times and been so successful and so inspirational. So what is the main advice you can give to somebody to follow in your footsteps?
I would tell people to always continue to work on yourself and to be confident and unapologetic about your excellence. One of the things that my parents always taught me was that I was amazing and that I was smart and that I could do anything that I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I got to college that people started to say, "Well, you shouldn't be doing this, or you can't do that, or are you sure?" Like I don't play that. I need you all to be confident. I need you all to work through your like personal problems. I need you to work through your issues. Go to counseling if you need to go to counseling. But don't let people limit who you are, even if they're family. Sometimes your family is scared that you might have too big of a dream, but have big dreams and seek out people, ask questions, and figure out how you can make those dreams be reality. Don't let where you're from define you. One thing that he didn't share with you is that I've lived as an adult, I've lived in 12 different states, as far west as Hawaii to Chicago, New York. I've lived in Colorado, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Michigan. I've lived a lot of places. And
Yeah.
so don't be afraid to do different things. Don't be afraid to like try stuff, and don't be afraid to be different. When I was in high school, I was an athlete, so people were cool with me. I was a cool jock, cool athlete, but I was also about my business. My parents did teach me that there's a time and a place for everything. Obviously I talk a lot, so I got in trouble sometimes, got put on punishment, and got other trouble. But at the end of the day, like I realized that There's a time to be focused and a time to chill. And I had to like take my future seriously, even if I didn't like a class, even if I didn't like a teacher, because I had some teachers I couldn't stand. I had to realize that they were going to get paid and have their degree and go home to their family, whether I like them or not. So me like cutting up was just me hurting my future. So you have to be selfish in the way that you protect your future and you protect your dreams, and you don't let anything around you stop you from being your best amazing self and being black excellence, girl excellence, just being amazing. And I don't let anybody get in the way of that. Nobody can tell me nothing.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, I got one more before we go. And this was something we had just talked about before we got on, and you kind of hit on it a little bit. We looked at FedEx, UPS, and some of these big national companies, and JetBlue is another one. If you know, we have a lot of these kids say, "I want to get the heck out of Mississippi," and that's fine. But how important is it to find a company that has locations all over the country or the world to use that to put yourself in a different location?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So like FedEx, for example, their hub is in Memphis, which is not too far from
Yeah, right up the road.
where you all right. And so FedEx is the one of the largest cargo carriers in the country. So they have all the careers. They don't have flight attendants, but they have all kinds of careers. You all were talking about supply and logistics and transportation. So yeah. Um, so I know that right now, you all are where you are, and some people that are from communities like yours actually go away to boarding school to and get full scholarships to go to boarding schools and live in different states. But for the most part, you're where you are, and the best time to kind of explore different states and different countries is when you get out of high school. And so one of the best ways to do that is by going to college, not just any college, but picking a college that has something that you're going to like to do. And college is nothing like high school. So like you can not like school. Believe it or not, I have 8 years of college and I don't like school. And you can still get through it. But so college is a good way to kind of explore. Some people join the military. Like if you're an ROTC, you can go to college specifically to be an officer. You can join the military as an enlisted person and travel all around. You can go straight out of high school and just pick a job. You can join a company, organization that has a program outside of your area, like Job Corps. Job Corps has sites that are all over the country. My
Yeah, we have a
husband is in
local
Job
job.
Corps. Yeah, but you don't have to go to the local Job Corps. You can go to a Job Corps in another area, and
Okay.
Job Corps has dorm
Okay.
places where you live. You don't have to go to your local Job Corps. You
Okay.
can go to a Job Corps outside of your area. They have housing. You learn a skill. Sometimes you can get your diploma if you just left high school early. So Job Corps, military, college, or just leaving and going for a job and getting a roommate. There's a lot of ways to get out and try new stuff. Like I said, I lived in 12 states, so
I knew it was a lot. I
all
didn't know it was that many. That's quite a few. All
yeah,
right.
it started when I
And
was
again, we thank you so much for doing this. I know you had to get up early, but I'll let everybody say bye.
bye. Oh, well, thanks for having me. Yes, it's early, but I'm always up early and I'm always down to help Mr. Pregott. And I'm also down to help students, all students, but especially students who look like me. So you all keep being great. Be Black girl magic, Black boy joy, and keep being Black excellence. And if you're not Black in there, be excellent too and be a good ally.
Everybody else but me.
Well, you're a good ally and I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. It was so great to see you.
Same. Everybody have a good day. Be great.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.